it's like, do you take advantage of that opportunity or not? You know, do you have what you have, and do you use it or not? And I feel like I'm just building something like somebody did in Star Wars or somebody did in Lord of the Rings. Like, I'm just building something for our story, and it's just maturing. And I feel like when we hit the big stage, we're going to stop and look back and go, man, that took a while, but it's awesome that it took a while, because it couldn't have happened any earlier. One of those things.
Yeah. It's like you're bringing the image to the world. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, for me, words are what makes sense to me.
Right.
And I'm not like saying like, oh, I got the most creative words the way I do. No, it's just words make sense to me. I'm a vocal person. I have to have people remind me things audibly. You know what I mean? Like, everyone shares their affection in their own way. For me, it's with words. And that's how I interpret affection. So I'm very hung on that line of like working on the book with words. But when you go off and you say, I need to see this visually, in some way, shape, or form, or you feel that we need to see this visually, you end up invoking the spirit of that. And so now the book is like becoming a visual place between a few people. It's not like, oh, he's doing this, he's getting paid, it's his job. You know, he goes there, he works for Disney, he's just doing that, not a big deal. Like, no, it's like, we're doing this for a book. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has their part to play, and when we always talk about it, like when I found all my old journals, and all I ever read is me talking about being the creator of this place, but I talk about you guys like separate creators, and we're all working towards the same end. You went off this way, like, dude, this needs to get done. We can't let that not be a thing. And I'm like, okay, you do that, and I'll go over here and I'll work on this shit. And Jacob's been kind of like the companion for me that I bounce shit off of when it comes to this weird spiritual element. But I always see you as the person that's like, no, I need to make the mountains, man. I need to make the rivers and shit. Because the first thing that you did was that map that I have.
Yeah.
That was what you said, hey man, I redrew that little thing you had in your journal. I drew that for you here. And when I saw that, I was like, holy fuck. It just like, I realized the world could be a visual place. I didn't ever think it could be, you know?
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to take it to the next step. Like, really build it. Really make it. Like, if there's, like, I know you're not the only one that's going to be like, you know, I don't see it. Here. I got you. I got you 10,000%. And it's fun. Because now I'm able to do the thing that I feel like I'm able to do.
No, yeah, for sure.
Because it'd be like, oh man, I'm a writer, but I don't have a quill and ink or any, you know, it's like you have this, but not having the tool. But now I finally got the tools, and it's a lot of fun, man. I'll be honest.
It's like, welcome, motherfuckers. How you doing? How y'all doing? Well, my friends, we had ourselves a whole thing happen today. Now, a little update about the last video, day 21. Once I finished that video, remember I was like, you know, I don't know how I feel about writing today. We'll see what happens. I had probably one of the most insane writing sessions I had ever experienced. It was transcendental. It was absolutely astounding. I'm like flabbergasted that happened. Right? It took a lot out of me. I transcended another fucking place. And since I did that, I don't even know, man. It was nuts. It was an amazing writing experience. So today, Chuck was in the shop. $1,800 later, I'm back. I had to go get it. Needed some work done to it. Fucking shit's expensive. Came back here, started writing again. Another very productive writing day. I've got 4 pages so far. And then I found 2 additional pages that are going to be spliced in of old work that I have once I figure out how to connect them. We have another very well productive day of writing. Day 22, which is a huge number for me. Now, I don't know why sometimes it's easy to write and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can sit down and shit makes a lot of sense. Other times you try and it doesn't work, you know. That's what I always come back to that thing I tell people. I'm like, I'm never a proponent about forcing things. You know, just keep going at it, keep working at it, keep working. Like, nah, it's not necessarily how it works. Sometimes you have to take a fucking break. You have to sit back. And I'm going to be honest with you, because today is day 22, I was really trepidatious to jump into it. I was a little nervous. I'm like, I don't know what to expect or what's going to happen here. This is kind of scary. Because it may be a super simple writing day, or it may be the most difficult day I've ever had. But judging by yesterday and today, story-wise, only focus on Nacum. The bones are there. It could use a lot of improvement, but it's absolutely perfect. This journey of Nacum that I told you, like I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to do. This and that. Trepidatious. Leery. All of a sudden, I'm walking out of it, and it actually makes sense. I treaded into the unknown. I ventured to this point. Shit all came together. We have an objective that is actually kind of what I wanted to happen, but I didn't know how to do. It's insane like that, man. I'm flabbergasted that it even happened, honestly. I don't know. It's just really cool to kind of, and this is for anyone that tries to write themselves, just trusting yourself, trusting your process, trusting, you know, the work that you put into it, the studying that you have to do, or like taking reports, or whatever it is you need to do, like research and stuff. You do that, you take the notes, you make the world, you ask yourself questions, you keep building and building and building, and you expand and you grow. And that way it's enough that you can fall onto it, you know? For the longest time, I was kind of nervous treading here with Nacum. I was like, I don't know if this is going to make sense. I don't know if I'm walking into the dark again. Because I told you before, like sometimes you'll walk into these unknown spots, you're like, I'm going to try this. And you might come up like hundreds and hundreds of pages and many hours later going like, that never worked. We have to cancel all of that. And that is a great possibility. But as I finished up this rough draft of it, I'm just looking, I'm like, you know, the bones are okay. They're not bad. I love the wording I was using here. I was feeling really kind of spiritual, so I was using really interesting spiritual words and stuff, and evoking kind of ideas and stuff, and being more ethereal. And in doing that, I'm like, I could really expand this if I sat down and tried to hone it more. You know, because your first draft is just get it out. Don't worry about a bunch of things, just get it out. Who cares about spelling? Who cares about the structure of the paragraphs? Who cares about some of the words you use? Get it the fuck out. Because at the end of the day, when you're doing writing, you're just trying, the first draft, you're just trying to keep up. That's all you're doing. I found. When I sit down for the typewriter and I know I have to make a scene happen, or I have to explore something, it's like it's happening before you, and you are just putting it down in words, and you're just trying to keep up with what's happening. You can hone your skill. That way you're quicker at it in the moment. That way you're a little bit more precise, or you're more aware when it's happening, but sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes it's just not possible. Sometimes shit's happening so fast you don't have enough time to really explore it, so you just gotta keep trying and keep working at it, you know? That I can only say is like anything else. It's a learning process, man. It's just a big thing, and you gotta make mistakes. You really do. I just think, for me, the hardest part is knowing what skills are needed. And so far, I think the biggest skill that I really have to find a way to get like more honed or whatever is diving into the ethereal realm again. I used to be really good at that shit. I used to be good at like going into these like weird dreamlike escapes in my mind and exploring dreams and stuff. And so I kind of been neglecting that, and now I'm really out of shape when it comes to that stuff. So I'm kind of like I'm a little behind. I need tools. Like sometimes I have to put earphones in and listen to soundscapes to help me, because you got to find ways to make it work for you. But that's only a temporary fix. I am just so happy to see the story coming to a head. The story of Nahum works in tandem with the story of Eris, and they're both working for the same goal. It's just Eris is the one that has to tread forward into the darkness alone, and Nahum's the one who has to go off and do whatever he can to aid Eris in any way, shape, or form. They're both cut from the same cloth, but they have a different goal. And that's not me even talking about Anna. That's not even talking about like Vasha and Jal or Quinlan, Cyphrus, or even, I don't remember if I have another character I've forgotten about, like Rakib and a couple other little characters. That's not even including them. Like everyone has a purpose that they're all working as a team for one grand event. It's just everybody plays their own part to get to that event, and it's very crucial. What is also crucial is along the way making sure that you are making hyper aware of their human flaws and their human struggles. Like maybe they have a bad relationship with their father. Maybe they have a bad relationship with women or some other object or thing. They have purposes and things that were meant to happen. It's not like that's easy. It's easy to say that. It's hard to make it happen, because man, sometimes when you get inside the writing and you're exploring through it, you just look around. You're like, man, I got to find a way to connect all this to the past. Or I have to find a way to connect this section in some sort of spiritual element, like it was always meant to be. Like it's difficult, man. It's really difficult to make everything come together. But for me, being that it's exploring the ethereal realm generally, things aren't always so connected. Things aren't always so clear, and that was the whole point. We talked about the other realm and how when one explores the other realm, it is without its barriers and rules. Well, being that as it is, you have to have the writing kind of be that way as well. And in coming out of it, so your character explores the other realm and he comes out, some things he's not going to remember fully. And you got to keep that in mind. The reader will know. The reader doesn't forget that, but the character does. So there's so many different things that are always in motion that you have to make sure you're aware of. And goddamn, can it be a lot? The more you go into your stories, the more moving parts there are. And factions and peoples and just places alone, and all the dumb little things. Like, what kind of technology do they have there? Do they have carriages and horse-drawn wagons? Do they have vehicles at this point? Like, what is it? There's those little things. And there's the big things that are just like, well, there's an aqueduct here. Like, how does that affect the bandits out in the open fields around this, like, small village? Or, like, if you're near a bog and there's these creatures that live in it, like, how does that affect the trade that comes in and out of this region? Like, those fucking questions alone. Not to mention, like, oh, well, this guy's at war with that guy, and these countries, how does that affect the average people? And what about, like, invasions and this and that? And then you got to go higher than that, and you got to say, like, well, this king is coming to the crown, but, he doesn't have an heir except for a nephew. How does that affect the family line? That would be a sister's son. Like, is there some weird conflict going on there? And then you go higher than that, and you ask yourself, what are the gods trying to do? And then you got to go into individual levels of who you're telling a story about and have a story arc. Like, well, this person's story is going to be this rag to riches story. And this guy's going to have this kind of hero's quest. And this one's going to be a tragic story. And then meanwhile, their personal kind of feelings and expressions and all that stuff have to be taken account into as well. Also, you need to make sure it's a good readable story that's not boring and that captures people and then that challenges their mind. All built into one. You know what I mean? It's difficult, man. It really is. Because at the end of the day, for me, writing a fantasy book feels like a business. Feels like when I hang out with the guys and we talk, it's always like, hey, we got to work on this thing. This needs some improvement. Hey, we were thinking about this and this doesn't seem right. We have to work on that because it doesn't make sense. Or it always feels that way. Always. And I'm getting updates about what's going on in their lands so I can make sure I keep in my mind, okay, if that's going on, I got to make sure I'm doing this and that. It really does. It feels like a fucking business. It feels like a job. A good job, one that I would love to have, but I'm not getting paid for. So it's, for me, I'm just trying to say that if you're getting into this kind of stuff, if you ever feel like you want to get into it, and you want to do it on a very deep level, it's going to consume you totally. Balancing that in your personal life will be difficult because everyone wants a piece, right? Everyone wants you. Everyone wants you to come over, hang out, see you, talk to you, do this, do that, and it's like you kind of have to try to find a balancing act, you know. And it's not easy. It really isn't. What it would be is if I was only doing this and not working a job, I wouldn't have a difficulty with it. Because I'd be putting probably 4 hours a day in, 5 days a week. So it wouldn't be that hard. It's just starting out, this is kind of what it is, I think. It's going to take all of you, and you're going to have to balance so many things, but at the same time keep everyone happy and whatever the fuck they want with you. And for me, since it's a fantasy story, I almost feel like I'm pulling farther and farther away, where it's like I don't want all this outside stuff. I just want this, and that's unhealthy, so you have to make sure that you don't let it totally consume you. But at the same time, it's therapeutic because you're exploring deep facets of your own mind that you sometimes might be aware of or might be totally aware of, or sometimes not at all, and it's just in your face, and you're forced to kind of completely rethink of the way you interact with everyone around you, the world that you're in, and yourself placed in that. I think I talked about in the past where I always felt like I wanted to be in the shadows. Like that's kind of how I lived my life. Where I didn't want to interact with people or events or things or gossip or just bullshit like you see on the TV, like how people are with each other and what you're supposed to love and supposed to hate, and technology and fuck knows what else, just things that we're all supposed to do, feel, and accept, and you don't want to do any of that, and it constantly feels like a struggle. I don't have social media, so I can't tell you what that might be like, but already it's too much for me, and I always want to kind of skirt around. I always consider it like the bubble of life. Inside of that bubble is everything that you'll ever know that's on this world that takes a piece of you. And I'm always trying to stay outside of it and just get by. Be a shadow. Don't be noticed at work. Don't have a lot of friends. Don't, encourage a bunch of people to want something from you or whatever it is. And I find it's debilitating. And weirdly enough, I would venture into this book to get away from it. But it's funny. In that venturing into this book, look at this. I fucking, out of nowhere, it was like I record myself, and now here I am just letting in and doing the very thing I don't want to do. I don't know why I'm doing it. Just at the end of the day, for me, I don't want to have a job. That's really it. I don't want to have these stupid responsibilities that I don't care about. I want to have the responsibilities that mean something to me. I'm chasing a dream. One that was almost, I don't feel like it might have been thrust on me, but I came to an area where I was like, I don't ever think I ever wanted to be a writer, but this is what's happening, and I guess that's what I want to do. It just kind of stumbled and it fell into my lap, becoming a writer. And the more I do it, the more I feel like I'm shit at it, the more like I'm like, God damn, I suck so fucking bad. And because of that, I'm trying to improve and trying to work through a bunch of things, and it's like blending, kind of like the book. You have right here, I showed you this drawing before, but let me re-show you. That's the chains of time I was telling you about. This is the manifestation, unmanifestation that leads you through the blend of reality and dream. And that leads you on further through the consciousness ideas that exist in this fractal nature that is broken up and is whatever you want to call it, dimensions, realms, or whatever. Okay? Nice and simple. But my idea is, with the book, I'm trying to, through the manifestation, I'm manifesting the book while using the chains of time to get to this point of reality and the dream. The book is the dream. Reality is my life. If I could make this one blend, which is God frequency, which is how you invite God to help you through that process, like, you know, when you're doing any form of work, you might feel like, oh, I was just inspired by God. I didn't even feel like it was me. I felt like it was him, you know, like, you know, you can feel that way when you do some sort of art or whatever. That's what I'm doing with it. Inspiring myself to blend the reality and the dream to create this God frequency so that we may have this mythology that not only affects me and helps me, but possibly could help other people out there. That's like the main goal of what I'm doing here. And every time I sit down and I try to work on this book, or I try to, you know, take notes or do all these little research papers I have and try to explore what the Fae are, what the other world is, Irish mythology, Greek mythology, exploring the darkness, exploring what time is and how realms work and the dream world. Like, what exactly is that? What does it mean to have astral travel and all that? All these little fucking things are all built onto each other through my, like, very minuscule mind in order to grasp it and create a concept that's behind a lore that is within a world that doesn't even exist. And it's like, you have to do all that shit and get people to believe it with the shit I said before, you know, all the fucking little lores in there, like, make sure it's all realistic. Like, well, if there was a river running through here, this wouldn't happen because there's a valley over there. So, you know, all that fucking shit to, like, well, the natural border, if it's here, would cause this to happen. If you said there's a trade route going through here, I think what reality would be is this would be blah, 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 blah. Just shit people get hung up on. So you fix all these little things, and the reality is, like, I'm just telling you a fucking story. You know? I'm not trying to name every fucking river in the continent of Europe. You know? Like, but you got to, because it's going to come up. It's just it's a heavy bag, man. Like, it can really weigh you down. And it's like, the more you keep treading through it, the more you find mediocrity, I think. It's made me look deeper at other work out there. And other fantasy to, like, even video games and shit, or like cartoons. The world that it has, like, think of Adventure Time. And if you like it or not, I don't know. But if you do like it, think of what you've accepted along the way, all the stories that kind of slowly manifest. Or some people like the video game Half-Life, right? Like, think of what you've had to accept of that story. There are certain things that happen, and it's just I always kind of look and say, like, am I wording everything in the way that people will give a shit and want to keep reading? And though maybe something's not clear, because that's the hardest part, is getting someone to, like, hey, by the way, there's a whole world here and there's, like, a history to it. getting them to believe that is like, how do you do that? Is that divine, or is that within just the wording that you use, just how you choose the words? I don't know. I really don't. It's like bombarding. It really is. And there's this huge, like, just self-loathing that comes with doing all of this shit, because you never feel like you've captured it right. You always are like, man, it could be better. Or, man, I should have drawn that world better. I should have fucking done this more. I should have paid attention here. But at this end of the day, man, you're limited by your own mind. On the material plane here. You have your mind, the multifaceted nature that it can have, it's still limiting compared to a real world. You know, there's so many different groups of people that are in our real world, it's believable. But you look at, like, Tolkien, and there's quite a bit there, but not realistically enough to make it, like, to transcend Earth. So I think at the end of the day, you just got to kind of ask yourself, like, what am I trying to do here? Am I making this place for me? And others may have it? Like I'm writing this story for myself, but maybe others can enjoy it? Or am I writing for people? That would be, like, honestly, my question for Tolkien. Why are you making this? That's what I would ask, like, Robert Jordan. What are you doing? Well, like, is this for you? Is this what you want? Do you want to live side by side with this world, or do you want to live in this world? I don't know. Like, yeah, you know, they're dead. I can't ask those guys. I don't really have any modern authors that are alive that I enjoy, so I don't know. It's difficult. Why are you doing what you're doing? It always boils down to that. Always. What are you doing this for? At the end of the day, when I'm involved in the story and I'm excited because of what I've done with Naka or Eris or Anna or Aya or any of them, I'm like, oh wow, this is so awesome. You jump out of that for a second and you ask yourself, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? What is this? And you could log jam your ideas with as much as you want and say, like, oh, you know, I'm just trying to create a mythology, or like, I'm just making a story that's designed to guide people. I'm just trying to unravel my own mind, and whatever it is. But is that really it, or is there more to it? Like, the biggest thing that I always make sure I try to do is check my own ego when it comes to this stuff. Like, okay, so you're putting your fucking thoughts on a YouTube channel. Why are you doing that? What are you doing that for? You trying to, like, get all swollen in the head and shit? You trying to be bigger than you really are? You know, you always have to make sure you check yourself, I think. You know, if I get really proud with my work, I'll have those days like, oh yeah? I bet I could find a lot of shit wrong with it. You know, like, and I don't know, that might not be healthy, or it might be, I really don't know, but I always found that that's what keeps me grounded. It's just like saying, like, no, you don't get a fucking swollen head about this. You're nobody. Writing a book that nobody cares about. You know? No one even knows it exists, so who cares? Don't get swollen on this shit. Because it's really easy to do. I mean, just all of the things that go into being a writer, for me, this is all of it, you know. Everything I've said in this video, it's like, it's such a complex relationship. And this is the only with yourself. That's the crazy thing. Like, when I talk about all this is just a relationship I have with myself. I've not even talked about in great detail my friends or my wife or my family. I don't talk about any of that stuff because you don't want to get anyone caught up in things if they're uncomfortable with it, but you have to balance all of these relationships and stuff and find a way to be present, but you're never going to be present enough for everybody. Your mother's always going to want to call you every day, and you won't. You're always going to have that strained relationship with your father, maybe. You're always going to be distant from certain people in your life you grew up with, and it's going to be hard to catch up with people. And then people start dying around you, and you're going to be like, oh, fuck, I should have been smarter. And then you try, and then all of a sudden someone else dies. You're like, damn it, I guess I was picking the wrong people. And you have all that shit going on. You have the life you're living where you're doing a bunch of fucking things. Like, you know, like for me, I'm moving. We got ourselves a trailer. I didn't really want to do this, but my wife did. And it's like, we're doing that. And so, like, I'm having to put this down payment, doing all this closing shit, you know, with the trailer and all that. Meanwhile, I got rent due in like a few days. Meanwhile, I just spent $1,800 on my fucking truck. Nuts. And then I got to put a $6,000 deposit in on a goddamn trailer and then move all the way down there, probably like a 30-minute drive. It's not that far, it's just annoying. And do all this shit and reset my mind and myself from this office into a new one. For me, that shit matters, man. There's a feng shui to it. Everything has to be in the right area. And it's going to take me probably a couple years to get comfortable in that office. And not only that, but I talk about my job enough. It's like shit can just all be at one time and stressful. And it's like you got all that shit going on, and all you want to do is come to this office and work on this book. But there's this fact you have to accept that, like, man, but there's a life that I have to live too. I got to keep this shit afloat. I have to make sure I do all the things that I need to do so that I can accomplish what I need to accomplish. For me, it would just be a responsible adult. The fact that I can pay all that shit and still have money tells me you were smart with your money. That's a good thing. You know what I mean? So just keep doing that. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to worry about shit. So I can't write. Well, I got to work all this overtime. I got to get a second job. And all of a sudden I'm not writing. I'm like, no, writing is the most important thing outside of people to me. You know, I have my wife, my family, and my friends. That's important to me. Outside of the obvious is my book. And that's it. I care about nothing else in this world. I love the Red Wings. I love my sports teams in Detroit, but not that much. I don't watch every game, but that's it. I really don't have a whole lot of shit that consumes me in this world. I'm very singular focused on family, friends, and work. This work, not my job. It's a balancing act, man. It really is. And the fact that if anyone's trying to do this too, I mean, hopefully you find a better way to do it, but I would say for me, it's really grown my mind. It really, really has. It's grown my mind quite a bit on like what I'm doing, who I am, how I see things, and what's the imprint or the memory I'm going to leave behind. That's crucial, I think. Figuring that shit out, and it helps you do that. But we're going to call that an end on this video. Sorry. Damn, I'm tired. I might call it a writing day too. I don't know. We'll see.